feel a sort of peace when we are in nature. But sometimes when we then go into the town or into the city and look at other people, the peak of creation, our heart sinks a bit. Maybe many of us have already shared this experience. It's only in very, very special moments, in meetings of heart to heart, when we can really see the radiant and glorious face of God shining more brightly in other people than in a blade of grass or in a sunset or in the sunshine. That's not a very religious experience at all. It's a very human experience, I think, that we all share. And you do not need to be a religious person to have had that encounter, I feel, or may have made this observation. Of course, we as God's children, as the chosen people that we are here gathered, we are all about changing that, right? And creating more and more situations where we can feel the full glory of God and experience the full glory of God in each other and as the noble beings that we are. And that is, of course, something. Let us first think about nature a bit more. Because why are we drawn to that originality, that purity, the beauty of nature? If these characteristics would have nothing to do with us, would have been totally unrelated to our human existence, if it were like that, then we would not be touched by nature. We are touched and we are moved by nature because, as True Father puts it in his quote, we have an original nature, an original mind that is hungry, that is yearning for that originality, that is yearning, that is hungry for that essence. Otherwise we wouldn't be touched by a flower. Otherwise we wouldn't be touched by a sunset. And otherwise we wouldn't be pained by seeing other human beings and people who have that same essence, the same originality, but are not able to show it and are not able to live it. That's why it hurts. So, all of history and all of our life is about changing that. And not because someone else tells us to do so, or it's written in a book that we are meant to do so, but because that's the calling of our heart, that's the calling of our life, and it's the calling also that brought us here to this place. So, Auntie Penny referred to the wilderness course, or a time of wilderness, and I think many of us here in the room have their share of wilderness, either in their past or still some thorns are still stuck somewhere of that wilderness path in our spiritual bodies. So, the second reading in Corinthians, Paul writes a difficult letter because he has been to Corinth before. Oh, I apologize. He has been to Corinth before. Basically, together with his immediate spiritual children, he has raised the church in Corinth. And then there were some other people sneaking in, sowing mistrust against what Paul was teaching, right? A bit of Gnosticism there, a bit of other things were being sown and shared in the community. And there was a particular person who is not named in the letter, but who caused a lot of grief to who caused a lot of grief to Paul for sowing that mistrust between him and the community. And he speaks of his last visit to Corinth as his most painful one. He refers to it in the letter. And so probably he has visited Corinth, he traveled on, but the pain from that experience of the disunity in the community was lingering on in his heart. And so from journeying on, he's writing that letter, right? And so that's a bit of the content. And he in the letter is autobiographical. He writes about himself and his journey. He expresses his forgiveness for those who hurt him. And he's trying and seeking to express the essence of what he's trying to give to his beloved children that seemingly reject him and his ministry in Corinth. And there he says, such confidence we have through Christ before God, not that we are competent in ourselves to claim anything for ourselves, but our competence comes from God. He has made us competent as ministers of a new covenant. He wanted really this community to move into the new era, to not be stuck or get onto a side rail or fall back into the old law, the letter that kills, so to speak, but fully get the spirit that gives life. So he opens up this juxtaposition. Of course, we understand we need spirit of truth, but in that situation, there was a tension between the two of them. And then he speaks of that greater glory. For what was glorious has no glory in comparison with the surpassing glory. So there is a light that is shining in the old age, but now embrace the new age. And then he talks about Moses, and maybe you know this story from the Old Testament, when Moses went into the tabernacle and convened with God and was looking for new guidance and orientation, people said that when he came out, his face was beaming as much as the face of the sister that Auntie Penny described, right? He was beaming so bright that the Israelites said, "Oh no, that's too much, Moses. Don't shine that bright." And so then he said he had to put a veil over his face, it says, and speak through the veil because the Israelites couldn't take the full glory of God in that moment. And then Paul reminds them, hey, we can be bold in this age. We are after Christ was here. Christ lived and died for us. So let us be bold in this age. The hearts of the Israelites were dull. They needed that veil between Moses and themselves because the glory of God was too much. But now I'm proclaiming to you the full glory of God. So please, don't put that veil between yourself and God in this time. Embrace the fullness of Him. So from 17 we can read, now God is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of God is, there is freedom. And we all who with unveiled faces contemplate the glory of God are being transformed into His image with ever-changing glory, which comes from God, who is the Spirit. And what is interesting, if you look into the original Greek of that passage, is unveiled. It also has the word mirror in there. So being transformed into the image, it's about seeing that image in the mirror. The word is connected to the mirror, right? So, and it's quite interesting. It's talking about the image of God, seeing the image of God in the mirror without a veil. What do you see when you look into a mirror? Yourself. That's powerful, isn't it? So, "28 days ago, on April 14, our true mother, our Holy Mother Han, opened the Chonwon Kung, the Chonil Sanctum. as a universal place of prayer for exact that purpose, for exact that worship. Like Moses went into the tabernacle, right, to meet God and then come out radiant and brightly. We are all invited to move into the Chonbongung. And in the Chonbongung, there's a bright white wall at the front with one spot pointing in. Would be nice to maybe we can put a mirror there at one point. And the other things is the 14 pictures of Mother of Pearl that are created around our pictures that depict the story of the life of true parents. Of course, familiar in Catholic churches, we have the 14 stations of the cross, right? Around every church, really. There are the 14 stations of the cross that you can go, because followers of Jesus Christ, Christians, are called to go into the footsteps, right? They're there to emulate the love and the life of Jesus Christ. And so that's why in a Catholic church you can meditate on those 14 pictures, 14 expressions, 14 stations of the journey of the cross, so that you are transformed to take on your own cross as a follower of Christ. As blessed families, when we enter into the Chonbongung, the Chonil Sanctum, we see 14 pictures of Mother of Pearl depicting true parents' life, their journey from the birth of true father, the birth of true mother, up to the ascension of true father, and the opening of Chonilguk and the declaration of Chonilguk. And there's also a picture of fishing in there. And there's the Mappy in there. You can recognize some familiar faces in Mother of Pearl in these pictures. And as Auntie Penny said, many have been there. So you are in the picture. You are enshrined in Mother of Pearl for many generations to come as they walk through these 14 pictures to take up not the cross, but the commission as tribal messiahs in their life of becoming local true parents, becoming true parents for the arts, true parents for Fortnite, or whatever the thing is you are called to be true parents in. And by embracing, by breathing and inhaling the energy of that place, we are being transformed in that way. So there was one. Anyway, there were also some situations in this time in Korea. Maybe you heard we were also asked to change our mission, and we of course accepted. And that made me think and reflect more deeply. And I had one burning question in my heart during this time in Korea, after visiting the Chonil Sanctum and everything. And that was, dear God, how do you see our movement? What's your view of Heavenly Parents' Holy Community? What's your view of the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification? What is your view of the unification movement? How do you see us? And I asked this question because obviously I was struggling with something. And after 3 nights and 3 evenings praying in the Chonbongung, in the vigil prayer, Chonchawang in the evening, I got the very most I got an unexpected, very deep answer. And God told me, look around here. These are my children. These are my children, flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood. And I had to send them to a war zone, a spiritual war zone, because there was no one else I could send. So I had to send my own children, because I know they would go. And have compassion. Have compassion with everyone. And yeah, I cried and cried and realized how small my heart was, how I was trying to understand our movement of human wisdom, and human wisdom fails utterly. But God gave me the deeper answer, and for what to do and what to understand. And of course, when we look deeper, we were sent into this war zone spiritually because the parents were already there in the middle, alone. And God had to send someone to be with them. And so I'm deeply grateful for everyone who was there in the 53-year wilderness course, doing exactly that. And we're certainly not perfect individually. We're certainly not perfect as a movement. We have a lot to repent for, but let's do so with that heart of compassion that God asked us to do, understanding the reality of this 53-year wilderness course. So now is a new time, and same as Paul invited the community of Corinth to catch up with the new age, to embrace the new age, to remove the veils of that time. Now we are invited to remove the veils through attending our Holy Mother and through attending each other and seeing God in each other's faces, so that the city center of Swindon is as beautiful to behold, with all these beautiful faces there, as the one John holy ground and the nature we have out here in Stanton, Fitzwarren. Thank you very much.